In today's video tutorial, I'll be showing you the corner to corner chevron. The supplies you need for this is at least 2 colors of any type of yarn and the corresponding hook. In this case, I'm using a number 4 worsted weight yarn and a size 5.5 or I hook. You'll also need a yarn needle to weave in your ends and a pair of scissors. Let's get started. To get started, you'll want to form a slip knot. I do that by just making a loop so that the yarn's crossed, and then pushing the end that's attached to the skein up through the middle, pull on the tail, and then you can insert your hook and pull on the long end to snug that down. To start our corner to corner blanket, we're going to start with a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, and at 3 I'll place my thumb to hold it. 4, 5, 6, and now we're going to double crochet back into that 3rd chain. So it's the 4th chain from the hook, not counting the loop on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, or the 3rd chain that you created. So I'm going to yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we'll repeat that for these next 2 stitches. So I'll go ahead and work the double crochet in the same fashion. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We'll do that one more time. Insert, and I like to get it under 2 loops there. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's our first corner to corner. This is the box stitch, so that's our first stitch formed. We're going to go ahead and make the next stitch. To do that, we need to increase, so we want to go from 1 stitch to 2 stitches, so it's an increase. We're going to chain 6 again, and again holding our thumb after that 3rd chain will help us find which stitch we need to put our first double crochet back into. So that was 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to go back into the chain 3 of the 6 that we created with a double crochet, and then again into the next 2. And here's your last one. Now, when I was first learning corner to corner, this next step is what confused me the most. We have 2 blocks like this. What I like to do is take the block in my left hand and just flip it up. Now we have this space here at the top. You can kind of see there. That's where our those 3 chains that we skipped and went into the 4th chain on the hook, that forms a gap in here where we can place our double crochets. So we want to slip stitch into that space by inserting our hook, yarn over, pull through that gap, and then pull through the loop on your hook. And that's your slip stitch. Then you're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to place 3 double crochets back into this same stitch. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So that's our second row formed. You can see the first row had 1 block, and in the second row we made 2 blocks. Let's go ahead and start row 3, and that's going to be the same way we started row 2. So we're going to chain up 6, 1, 2, 3, hold our thumb on the third stitch, 4, 5, 6, and then place our first double crochet into that third stitch where our thumb was, double crochet in the next 2, and again we kind of have that same block formation, and we're just going to flip up, slip stitch in there. Now we have the first time where we're seeing a middle block. So we're not increasing, we're just going to chain 3, work this stitch with 3 double crochets into that space. So each block is having the equivalent of 4 double crochets. The chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and then we place 3 more. We're going to join to this block with the slip stitch, again finding that space at the top formed by the chain 3. We'll insert our hook, and it's a nice size space, so you should be able to get in it easy. Yarn over, pull through the stitch, and then pull through the loop on your hook. Chain 3 and work 3 double crochets back into the same space. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So now we've completed rows 1 has 1 block, row 2 has 2 blocks, and row 3 has 3 blocks. For this blanket, if you want to copy the pattern that I did, you'll want to do 5 rows of your first color. So you'll continue to increase the same way as you did for rows 2 and 3. And in this case, we're increasing on both sides. I will show you a single side increase as we get further along, but I'll meet you back when we're at round 5 and show you how to change colors. Now I'm on the last block for row 5. I've completed my chain 3 and 2 of my 3 double crochets. We're going to change color this round, so what I want to do is start my double crochet by yarning over, inserting my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I'm going to let this yellow yarn drop to the back, and I'm going to pick up my pink yarn. Now I want to hold a long enough tail behind so that I can weave in my ends later. I'll get my yarn situated and then yarn over and pull through with the pink. Now I'll chain 3, and I like to do these chains first and then pull on the tail here of the yellow, and you can pull a little bit on the pink to kind of snug things down. Since I know that I chained 3, I'll pinch it and hold it just as we've been doing for our row increases. Chain 3 more, so 4, 5, 6, and then work my double crochet into this space. 1, 2, the last one is going to go right here, 3, again I'll turn it so that I can slip stitch, chain 3, Give myself some slack here. And then continue working across in pink. So this pattern calls for the first row, the first set of rows to be done 5 rows, and then for the whole rest of the project, everything is 4 rows. So 4 rows of pink, 4 rows of yellow if you were using this color combination. In the case of my purple chevron blanket, I used the color Mandala Chi, as well as a basic stitch in Lion Brand basic stitch in white. So you would continue to work across. Now these ends, we didn't cut the yellow because what we're going to be doing is carrying the yarn up the side of the work. And I want to show you how to do that. So I'll meet you back when I've completed the second row of pink and show you how we'll carry this yarn up the side. So you can complete this project in any number of colors. But if you're using 2 colors like I did for mine, every time you come back to the same side where your previous color is, so in this case on row 2, where I'm coming back and my previous color is there, I want to go ahead and tack it and bring it up the side so that we can carry our work up the side and have fewer ends to weave in. Now if you're using more colors, this may not work and you'll just cut a long enough tail and weave in your ends later. Let me show you how we'll tack this up. So we'll go, I've already chained 1, 2, 3. I'll place my first 2 double crochets. So we're at the end of row 4 of the pink. It's going to be time to change back to yellow again. Let me show you how we do that. We're going to chain 3. We're going to start this last block, make our first 2 double crochets, and then we have 3 blocks worth to bring this yellow up. So I do want to go ahead and tack it here at the corner, the bottom corner, as we did before. So once again, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, let the pink drop to the back, loop the yellow over, yarn over with the pink, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and then actually I almost pulled through, but you want to yarn over and pull through with the yellow to change. And now we'll continue working with yellow, just as we had before. You can see that yellow's carried up the back and it isn't too tight, but it's not too loose either. You just got to kind of play with that. And now as we come back on our second row of yellow, we would carry the pink up the side just as we had done before. Now I actually want to start decreasing here on this sample swatch, so I'll show you how we do that and how we get these colors to wrap around the corner when we do so. So sizing for this blanket, you can make it a square or a rectangle. My blanket is a square, but you can easily make it a rectangle. What you want to decide is how wide you want your blanket to be and how tall. Now we're working our first panel first, which is going to be 1/2 of the total width of your project, but the height is going to be as high as you want your project to be. So for right now, we're kind of working with a triangle. What you want to remember if you're carrying the yarn up the side is the side with the yarn being carried is the right side of your project, and it's the bottom of your project. If you're not carrying yarn, it doesn't matter which one is the bottom or the top, but if you're carrying yarn up the side like I am here, this is always the bottom of your project. So what you want to do is once your project, the bottom of your project is 1/2 of the total width you would like your blanket to be, you're going to stop increasing on that side, but continue increasing on the middle side until it reaches the height you want it to be. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's just important that, for example, if you want a 40-inch wide blanket, that you stop on the bottom side once the width from here to here reaches 20, because we're going to make the second panel that's another 20. Okay, so if this is going to be our last block, I do like to end on an even row of 4. That's just personal preference. There's actually nothing that says you couldn't do it on 2 and start decreasing, or 3. That's completely up to you. These blocks for worsted weight yarn with my gauge tend to be about 1 inch, so it doesn't make that big of a difference either way for me. But again, that's personal preference. So I've got my last block here. I'm going to go ahead and get that started. So chain 3, place my first 2 double crochets, so we're going to carry the yellow up the same way we did before. Yarn over, insert your hook, drape the yellow over the hook, yarn over, pull up the pink. Just make sure that yellow doesn't come through too, okay, and it's not. Yarn over, pull through 2. And because we're decreasing, I'm actually not going to change the color for the yellow here. I'm going to complete this stitch and turn. So next, what I want to do is slip stitch across these 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and into this space. But I want to kind of bring this yellow yarn around that corner with me. So what I'll do is insert my hook under that first stitch, drape the yellow over, yarn over, pull through that, and then pull through the loop on your hook. And then we'll go ahead and slip stitch as normal into the next 2. So slip stitch, slip stitch, and then we'll change colors here by inserting our hook, letting the pink drop, picking up our yellow, slip stitching with the yellow. And now, so it's a decrease. And then now we're going to chain up 3. And because this isn't an increase, we're not doing 6, we're just doing 3. And work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch here. And continue working. I'm going to meet you back at the end of the row because we do want to do an increase here. And I want to show you why. So remember that the edge where we're carrying up is the width, and the edge where we're not carrying up yarn is the middle. So we want to continue to increase on the middle side until the project is the height that we want. So that means coming up here with the yellow, now we're going to go ahead and work an increase. So I'll work my last block stitch. And then again, just as we had done the whole project, chain up 6, 1, 2, 3, pinch it, 4, 5, 6, and then double crochet where we pinched, double crochet in the next 2. Oops, I want both loops. And then double crochet in this last one. Join with a slip stitch and continue on. So you're going to continue to work like that until the project is as tall as you want. We already have the width set. And one thing you may want to do is either put a stitch marker as you go up on the side you're continuing to increase, or on the side that you're not increasing. Once you get a long enough straight edge, you'll kind of know, because it'll look funny if you now increase by accident. You'll see it shoot off to the side. So those first couple of rows, you want to remember to decrease. You may want to put a stitch marker here or here just so that you remember that you're not increasing, you're just decreasing and going back the same way. So now we've reached the end where I had started decreasing, so I want to show you that again. We're going to chain 3, double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and this time when we place our slip stitch, we do want to tack that pink yarn down. So I'm actually going to move it to where it's under the yellow, so that when I come in here, I can loop it over my hook. You can kind of see it there. Yarn over with the yellow and do my slip stitch. I'm going to turn. I'm going to slip stitch in these next 3 and slip stitch into this space. Now personally, since we're not changing colors this row, I'll just tack it in this stitch and I'll just do these 3 slip stitches in plain yellow. So, and this can be kind of weird when you do that first slip stitch, the way that this yarn is kind of looping over and around and back. So it's normal for that to kind of be weird if you're not used to it, but it's fine. So slip stitch, 2, 3, then again I'm going to pull this yarn up, this pink, insert my hook, in this case I need to put it under, because if I do it over, it's actually not going to do anything. So I'm going to put it under, yarn over, complete that slip stitch, chain 3, and you can see that pink's tacked down back here. And then I'll continue working my yellow up again. So I'm going to actually get this sample project finished up, and then I'll meet you back when we're ready to work the second panel. It turned out I wasn't going to have enough yarn of these 2 colors even to complete that rectangle, so I frogged it back and made this square. And here you can kind of see how it would look if you, instead of ending on a row of 4, if you started decreasing on a row of 2, how that looks, and it looks just as pretty. So I wanted to show you how we're going to finish off this panel. So in this case we have 2 more blocks left here, 1, 2, and then the final block. And I wanted to make sure that you're able to square off your project, because that last block can be tricky. So I'm going to go ahead and work our last 2 blocks here. Place 3 double crochets, slip stitch, chain 3, place 3 double crochets, slip stitch, and again this is a decreased row, so when we turn we're going to work a slip stitch into 1, 2, 3, and then this space here. Okay, so insert my hook, yarn over and pull through both, insert, yarn over and pull through both, insert, yarn over and pull through both, and then insert my hook into that space, yarn over and pull through both. Go ahead and chain 3, and then work our last block here, slip stitch. And you could finish off here, but I like to finish off in the corner. So I'll go ahead and turn and slip stitch across to the end. And now what I'll do is leave a long tail, clip my yarn over, and pull through. So we have our square, and since this pink, we're also done with it, I'm just going to kind of find where it ended. So it ended right there. Again, I'm just going to make sure I have a nice long tail and clip. Now, again, we want to remember to position our block for the next, or our panel. You know, this is going, it could be a rectangle or it could be a square, but we want to position it so that the center, so that we know where the center of our blanket's going to be. So in this case, the center of our blanket is going to be this side that has no yarn being carried up. And then the bottom and the top don't matter, and the side doesn't matter. Okay, so because this is the center, this is the right panel, or you can make it the left panel depending which way you turned it. Because of the way that we work the block, it doesn't matter which way that you do that. So next I'm going to show you how to start working the second panel to complete your blanket. Now for my blanket, I did this first set of 5 blocks in white, and then on the opposite side I also did white, and that formed the chevron, alternating white, purple, white, purple. In this case, I'm actually going to do this next set of blocks in pink, and that's just so that you can see the join. But keep in mind that the world is your oyster when it comes to design on this. You could make them the same and make a true chevron like I did, or you can make them, you know, alternate the same 2 colors or what have you, or you could add in a completely different set of colors here if you wanted. So that's completely up to you. That actually might make a beautiful scrap blanket. But let's get started with the next step, which is starting panel 2. So what I'm going to do is turn this just so that I can see this corner block easily and grab my color. Now I've actually got pink just so that you guys can see the join, but again, for my original blanket, this was white, and then the other panel also started with white. And how you do the colors is completely up to you. So what I'm going to do is insert my hook into the first stitch here and do a slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into this gap between this block here and this block here. It'll be really easy to get in there. Now chain 3, turn, and work your 3 double crochets into this chain 3 space that you created. So we had to create this space so that we had somewhere to work into, and this joins to our first panel. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll want to increase here. So 1, 2, 3, pinch, 4, 5, 6, and then double crochet back 1, 2, and 3. And again, we'll join with the slip stitch into this chain 3 space and work our second block for row 2 of panel 2. So chain 3, place 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and we'll join this to the first panel We'll join this to the first panel by placing a slip stitch right in between this block and this block. And again, now we need to get over to this side, so we're going to chain 3, slip stitch again between blocks, chain 3, and turn. And work our 3 double crochets. Here you can see that we're just joining with the slip stitch in each one and then using that chain 3 to kind of move up so that we can then work back. So you'll know it's time to change colors when your block is even with the last block of the color. So if you are matching when your white block is matching your white block, in this case I'm kind of doing catty corner, so I know that it's time to change color at the end of this row because we don't want to come back up again with the same color. So I've completed my chain 3 and 2 double crochets. I'm going to place my last one and just stop short, and just as we've been changing colors before, we're going to pick up the new color, yarn over, pull through, and this is an increase, so chain 6, so chain 3 and pinch, and chain 2 more, and continue just as we've been changing colors throughout our project, and you should be good to go on that for now. I'm going to give you a quick refresher on how to weave in ends, and if this is something you're familiar with, you can just skip ahead to edging is the next section. So I'm going to use a yarn needle and a needle threader and just stick this through, grab my first tail and get that threaded through my yarn needle. And then what I like to do is just kind of work it back and forth. So I'll come in the back here, pull down, and then I'll try to work down through the columns of these double crochets as well as in this section here. So I might work, for example, through here, up through here, loop over this one, and go back down the same way, trying to get under all of the stitches in there. Then I might come through on the side and kind of work down the same way here. And really all you're trying to do is kind of go back and forth and through to secure down this tail. When possible too, I'll try to split the yarn. So this yarn has 4 plies, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can kind of see them. So for example, I might get under 2 of the plies. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm under 2 of the plies when I go down and end, and that'll just help secure things a little bit more. And I'll often do that when I'm coming out. You see right there I split the plies. This is a blunt tip needle, so it's a little bit harder. If you have a sharper tip needle, it's a little bit easier, but I'll continue to weave back and forth until I've done it as many times as I can, or until I run out of yarn. Try not to make two sections that are too thick, but once I come through on the very last one, I'll for sure try to split the plies because that locks it in just a little bit more. And then how I like to finish off is I'll just give it a little bit of a tug to pull it taut, and then clip as close as I can. These aren't very sharp. And then when my stitch straightens back out, you can see the clipped in is right here. When my stitch is straightened back out, that'll get covered up and it won't really be noticeable at all. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in my remaining ends, and then I'll meet you back and show you how to do the edging. So for the border, typically I pick one of the colors that I was doing the blanket in, but for this example, I'm going to use this pretty blue just so that you can see the contrast. You can start anywhere on your project. What I do is join with the slip stitch into any space between blocks. I'm going to insert my hook, join with the slip stitch. Now, in some cases with the corner to corner, you could chain 3 or chain 2 and then slip stitch here and do that kind of all the way around. Because we carried the yarn up the sides, I want to make sure that that yarn gets completely hidden. So we're not going to do that type of edging on this corner to corner. So instead, what we're going to do is this particular block has double crochets facing up. So I'm going to go into the space and do single crochets into those spaces and a single crochet into the space between blocks. And now we have where the double crochet is sideways, so it's kind of a bigger space here. Again, I'm going to place 2 stitches into this same space and then 1 into the corner. Now again, I'm going to place a single crochet between both of these double crochets here, and I want to make sure that I'm getting my hook so when I insert under that I'm wrapping around and covering up this yarn that's been carried. So again in here and then again into the corner. And sometimes you have to pay attention if it's carried in the front like it is here or if it's carried in the back like it is here. When it's carried in the back like it is here, you have to make sure that you loop under there. So again, I have a stitch that's sideways here, so I'm going to place 2 under, 2 single crochets. This is all single crochets. You could also do half doubles, but I just like the way the single crochets work. And then there's a little, I don't know if you can see it here, there's a little leg here. I like to work 3 single crochets right in here, getting under that leg to form my corner. So I'll insert and place 1. I kind of turn mine as I go. Luckily there's only 4 corners, so you don't have to worry about it too much, but 2 and then 3. Now I'm around that corner, and depending on what I have room for, I'll place stitches here. So here I have room to put 1 in between these 2, and then 1 in between these 2 blocks. And again, I want to make sure, what I don't want is to accidentally have this happen where I've put my hook under the yellow, because then when I pull through, I won't be hiding that. So I want to make sure that I catch it so that when I pull through, it's being hidden. And you'll just continue like that all the way around your project. 2 single crochets any time there's a horizontal bar. Every time you want to put a single crochet into the corner between 2 blocks, into that space between 2 blocks. And when you have the 3 double crochets in a row, like here, in between each stitch, you'll want to get in there and make sure you're covering that yarn. So that's 2 stitches as well. And this one's a little bit hard to get into because it's where I weaved in my ends. So that's something to be conscious of when you're weaving in your ends. Just try not to make it too thick up there. That's what had happened there. And continue on. And that's how you're going to do the edging for your corner to corner blanket. Once you have your edging, then you can put any stitch you like to finish off your project. For my project, I went around 1 row with a single crochet and then a 2nd row with a half double crochet, and I called it done, but that's completely up to you. I hope you enjoyed.